Hello traders, this is my evening video and I'll give a quick rundown of some of the things I'm looking at right here. And I noticed we had a really solid sell-off. It was consistent all throughout the day. And I am of the belief that the markets have it wrong. I think the oscillators needed to be reset, and instead of having a V top after this massive gain from the first of the year, I think that what we're actually going to have now is some consolidation sideways. And that's why I was saying, even first thing this morning, I wasn't going to trade the index, SPX, SPY, QQs, ETFs, because I didn't think we'd actually have a major trend, which we ended up having anyway. But one of the main reasons I'm thinking that validate my reasoning, TLT, this is the weekly value area box from last week. And we had a 17% spike in the VIX today, almost a 17% spike. And we couldn't even get out of this value area on the bonds. And the bonds, in my opinion, are the primary indicator of fear in the markets, gauge of the markets. And the bonds are here, right here, telling me that the fear is not really there to support a massive downside move. Okay, and then you go and look at your high yield bonds, and that's what really drove the markets, broke the markets down. And it's the same story. I mean, this is the inverse of the TLT. But a breakdown right in this, that would lead your way for a major correction to the downside. And like I said, we're still inside of this value area developed out from last week. And we couldn't even break out of value on a very market day that had extremely bearish internals. And so that suggests to me that the markets are getting this wrong, and that this was just merely an oscillator reset. And what we saw today is like an absence of out of the money call buying, and a lot of speculators buying the out of the money puts, which a lot of them, in my opinion, are going to get dramatically clobbered in the head this week, because I do not think the markets are wanting to trend that way. Now, if you look at these internals, they were just outright bloody horrible. I mean, look at this. We opened up our UVol, DVol. They were just crapping it out all day long on the Qs. And it was heavily weighted with the FANG names. They were in a massive sell signal all day long today, which I think that's going to change tomorrow, because the news that came out about Amazon today with the UPS and FedEx, that was bullish news generally taken in the market. But the tape was in such a situation that they wanted to sell Amazon today, which tomorrow I think that's going to reverse. And if you look at your advance and decline on NASDAQ, the volume was bad, but our advancers and decliners are relatively mute all day long. We opened bad, but we weren't trending lower all day, so it was relatively strong. And then if you go down and look at your other the S&P really was bad, and I do think it had a lot to do. We were going into some core earnings this after hours, IBM for one, and we had a similar situation, big sell off in volume. But the advancers and decliners, they did take a hit in the S&Ps today, and I cannot deny that at all. But and that's why the VIX really got jacked up. But of the three major sectors, look at this. We really didn't have a strong sell off in the Russell after the initial open. I mean, we just we had a slight fade along with the rest of the markets, but nothing major. So I'm really thinking that to come tomorrow, we are going to see an outperformance in our Russell, because it held up exceptionally well today, in my opinion. I mean, in a relative terms. I mean, all the markets were down, but just something just to keep in mind here. And if you go and look at our expected move. Okay, what we had happen today on our SPY, we came crashing down outside of our weekly expected move on our SPY, and we found some support on our 125 SMA. And if you use a CNN fear and greed index, the 125 SMA is the key indicator they use for that index. We came crashing right down to that, found some responsive buying into the close. I think that they're going to try to save the 125 SMA this week, and we are going to stay inside of the expected move this week. I really think that's the thesis that they're really trying to do between the two blue lines, that we are going to be trading inside of this range for this week. And you never know what's going to happen with the news flow. Any positive news flow is going to send the markets higher, in my opinion, and it's not going to be that hard for them to do that. So just keep that in mind. And if you look over here on the greed and fear index real quick, and I don't want to show it too much here, but we have a read of 51. Now, typically what you do in this situation, using your fear and greed index, when it gets extreme bullish, you start adding out of the money puts. When it gets extreme bearish, you start buying out of the money calls. Okay? That's how you make your money. When it's neutral like this, this is for day trading. You don't take huge overnight positions in a neutral situation like this. So even though our charts are showing us that we are at a potential range top based on our indicators, our fear and greed index, which is a much more inclusive indicator, is telling us that it's most likely that the indexes are at a equilibrium here, and that supports my thesis that I think we're going to stay within our expected market maker moves for the week, in my opinion. So just keep that in mind. Take a chance. CNN Business. This is a great tool to use. Understand how it works, and it does help in your trading for your P&L on your trading. Believe it or not. Okay, IBM reported after hours, and we had a massive, it's like over $8 move now, I guess, in IBM. When you see a bellwether Dow component company making moves like this, and to be perfectly honest, I did all my analysis stuff, and I had considered taking IBM puts for the overnight session. Because you know how many times IBM loves to underperform. But keep in mind they bought out Red Hat, and those Red Hat numbers are going to start being reflected in the IBM results now. And I don't think the merger's quite completed, but considering how they've just bought the company out, and look, even Red Hat's catching a little bit after hours. But a lot of their numbers now are going to start being expressed in the IBM earnings results. So I would not be surprised to see Red Hat itself start catching a nice little bid tomorrow, because Red Hat is an extremely strong company, and IBM, I think, knew what they were doing when they bought it. The next real bellwether, in my opinion, that's TXN, Texas Instrument. Now here's where the problem starts, because they do have exposure to Apple as an Apple supplier. They don't plan on continuing doing Apple products, but they do have exposure to Apple. So what I'm thinking is going to happen tomorrow, we're going to see a short squeeze in these markets and resolve to the upside. And then come Wednesday, we might see some responsive selling, this being an Apple supplier and putting pressure on the semiconductors again. So just keep that in mind. That's a theory that I'm floating out there right now. But today, so far, FANG was really on a strong sell signal, so we need to see that trend change. I really think Amazon is going to gap up tomorrow, and it wants 1650 easily. And right now, it's trading on the 1 hour. It's trading under our 125 SMA. So we need to get it back over to 1660 for it to be bullish. So we are on the shorter time frames, the 1 hour. We are in a more dangerous situation on Amazon, and that's actually when everything started changing once it started breaking at 125 SMA. Earlier today, once we broke that, it just come crashing down on the daily. So we need to get back up above that for a sustained move in the FANG stocks, in my opinion. So, set 1675 area, we need to keep a price above that to keep this market alive. Well, that's all I'm going to say for today. Keep it short. And like I said, I do think we are going to have a sideways move in the markets this week. So, good luck and good trading.